Recruiters don't own your response. I know this makes people mad, but you need to hear it. No, lady, I don't need to hear it. We spend so much time and energy preparing our resume, perfecting our cover letter, and then filling in the tedious application forms, and then going through multiple rounds of interviews. And we don't even deserve to get a notice that we're being rejected. An automated email would be enough. It's not like we're asking the HR manager to write a 1,000-word letter to each applicant. But no. You have to write a whole essay just to justify why recruiters ghosting applicants is reasonable. So my only response to you is, devour feculence. There was a time when I believed in what my career courses taught me. It said you gotta do all these things in your resume just to increase your chances of getting considered for your application. You gotta make your resume one page only. You gotta use corporate approved fonts like Arial or Times New Roman. You gotta include only 2 to 3 bullet points in each of your work experiences. You can't just describe your job. No, you need to use the competency action result framework to transform every single mundane task you've done into a moment of triumph. For example, if you're responsible for scanning paper documents into a computer, you can't just say that on your resume. You need to say, I spearhead a legacy enterprise asset migration initiative, leveraging optical imaging workflows to transition analog data structures into centralized repositories, optimizing regional information retrieval latency by 35%. And then after you have crafted a resume, they say you need to open a LinkedIn account. You need to post stuff to get noticed by the recruiters. It doesn't matter if the thing you post is normal, you just gotta make it career relevant. So if you have taken a shit successfully, you need to post, I'm thrilled to share that I've successfully executed a major personal milestone. After weeks of strategic planning and disciplined execution, I'm proud to announce a seamless delivery that exceeds all expectations. This process taught me the value of patience, timing, and trusting the process. Remember, every small win is a step towards greatness. Hashtag personal growth. Hashtag winning mindset. You know, at first, I really bought into all of this, but not anymore. I'm not saying the advice is completely useless, right? They might be helpful in some degree, but in this job market, the degree is really small. This is the employer's market now, which means the HR managers have the luxury to just choose from a massive pool of talent. Now, we all know they spend around 5 seconds to look at each resume, so even if you tailor your resume perfectly, I don't think it will make that big of an impact because everyone is doing that with AI. I didn't realize the full picture of reality when I started applying for jobs. Back then, I was that hopeful and naive little kid. When my applications were rejected, I told myself, maybe it's because I'm new, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be alright. And when there was an interview that required me to commute for 2 hours to get there, I was more than happy to go. In fact, I spent days preparing for my interview. I checked the company's website, I researched their latest projects, I rehearsed my talking points, and I dressed up nicely, just for the sake of nailing that half-an-hour interview. And as the interview wrapped up, I asked them when I should expect to hear back from them, and they said it would be about a week. That sounds pretty reasonable, right? And then after a week, there was nothing. No call, no email, no automated response, just nothing. And after a month, still nothing. At this point, I thought they had just ghosted me. And you know what? I wouldn't be that angry if that were the case. But after a month and a half, they sent me a text message. And this message completely made me snap. Now, you're gonna think this message was a late rejection notice, maybe coupled with an apology for the delay, right? Or if you're more optimistic, you'll think it could be a job offer, but it's none of the above. Instead, the message was, have you found any job yet? Now, I had no idea what this message meant, but my first instinct was that this was completely unbelievable. No apology, no professional courtesy, just a message to check how I was doing with my job search from the employer who ghosted me. But as angry as I was, I gotta admit, I was pretty impressed by his audacity to send this message in the first place. And absurdity didn't just stop here because some job application processes were downright ridiculous. So I tried applying to this company. You know, as usual, you need to fill in a long and tedious application form. You gotta write down your personal info, like your name, your university degree, the reasons you want to work here, all the usual stuff. But you know what? This was actually the easiest part, because this was only the beginning of the application. You heard me. Filling in the application form and answering all the stupid questions is not enough. You also need to complete a digital assessment. Otherwise, your application would not be considered. So at first, I thought it was gonna be a set of simple IQ questions. But when I clicked on the digital assessment, I realized how naive I was. Turns out, the assessment include complex problem-solving questions, riddles, puzzles, equations, you name it. And then you have 36 minutes to answer 24 questions, averaging about 1.5 minutes per question. And this time limit is insane. Because let me give you some examples of how ridiculously difficult these questions are. Use the sequence presented in the first 3 groups to identify the logic, and then select the correct color pattern for the 4th group. This is group 1. This is group 2. This is group 3. Alright, now find the correct pattern for these 4 options. Don't worry, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to do the question, and then I'm gonna reveal how I arrive at the answer. The answer is, I have no idea, but Gemini said it's A because of whatever these explanations are. Or how about a math question? The chart below displays an average crop yield per facility type across 2 different half-year periods. Based on the bar chart and the regional facility distribution, find the regional location that produced the highest overall crop yield in the second half of the year. This one is actually solvable. All you need to do is to ignore the green bars because they represent the first half of the year, and then from the orange bars, extract the average values for both facilities in each location. Now, because the chart only shows the average yield per facility, we must multiply these averages by the actual number of facilities located in each region to calculate the highest yield. And ta-da! Tokyo is the answer. These 3 questions are only the tip of the iceberg because you need to answer 21 more questions like this. Not only was this a waste of time, but it was also mentally draining because you suddenly need to take the SAT as part of the job application. And worse, you're probably gonna get rejected after you have spent so much effort fulfilling the mind-boggling requirements. And thank God I'm not the only one who finds this ridiculous. People who had gone through this also share the same sentiment. I only answered 13 questions and I was even rushing. And I started guessing at the end. The assessment was just so demoralizing that I'm not even sure there's any point. The concept of companies having an assessment using riddles is kinda insane, to be honest. Unfortunately, this is ubiquitous in many industries that's meant to find candidates who are intelligent or clever, even if they don't have as much direct experience. Wait, what? How's using riddle questions useful in testing if a candidate is intelligent when those questions are not even related to the role? At this point, I'm just so angry at all the red tape I have to go through just to get rejected for a job. So now you know why I'm so mad at this post, especially for the recruiters don't owe your response quote. Lady, imagine you were gonna go on a date with a guy and then he ghosts you. His reason was that he realized he had lots of priorities in life. For instance, he needed 8 hours for sleep, 1 hour for the gym, 9 hours for his job, and 5 hours for his side business. And after doing some math, he just decided he wouldn't have the time to meet you. And that was why he simply ghosted you, not because he was rude, but because math exists. Now, how would you feel? And by the way, if you really think this should be how hiring practices work, then don't complain if the applicants start doing the same thing to employers, like ghosting their interviews, backing out their offers, or quitting 1 week into a role because a better contract just popped up. If you treat applicants without any respect, then they're not gonna offer any good view to employers either. And one final note, I'm not sure why we need to choose between these options. Being mad about reality and becoming someone the employer can't ignore aren't mutually exclusive. You can be angry at the current job market and the ridiculous hiring practices, and simultaneously improve yourself to get a better job. This is what most of us do anyway. We're not satisfied with the current environment, but sometimes we just need to go along with it because we might not have a choice. But if we become content with reality, then that reality is just gonna get worse for us. Thanks for watching. This is Mr. Machine.